Hey Samuela and hey YouTube, this is Adriano with Tano Sabers, and today, after a very long time, I have another completed commission. It's been a long time since I've posted a video. I've been trying to do other stuff, but haven't had a new saber to actually demo and show off in a while. So I'm excited to do this one. A lot of you know this hilt and what it is, as you can see from the box. Very cool box. But I'm super excited for this one. It's a very different hilt. As you can see, I've got a lot in the cube and very busy, which is good. But I finally finished this one up and I'm excited to show it off because it's very unique. I think the longest saber I've done is a Darth Maul, and this is by far the shortest one, as you can see from the box. I mean, this is the length of my hand, so it's pretty crazy. And I think this image on the side is a 1-to-1 scale image there. So super cool. This is a Grogu inspired saber. Obviously we've never seen him wield any saber. He almost received Yoda's, but obviously he didn't. But this is as if he had his own saber, and it's made by a Shadow Foil and Phoenix props. So when you open the box, this is what the inside looks like. They've got a cool little card in here that actually you can read it. It's like an Arabic font, but it's still English letters. It says finish, material, diameter, length, blah, 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 blah. So that's pretty cool. It's a very nice looking card. Comes with saber in the box. So when you remove this top layer of foam, put that off to the side. Here are the contents of your box. So Samuela, this is for you. You will not receive a battery in the box, but you will end up getting one of those on your own. So eventually you'll have one. The specific battery that need to be used with the saber is an 18650 battery, 3000 milliamp hour. This is the size battery and the brand also that I would like you to use with it. Please do not use anything else. These batteries are widely used in Neopixel sabers and are a trusted brand. In this little baggie are little plungers. This will make more sense when I show you. I actually 3D printed these because they come with, I believe it's aluminum ones, but I ended up I think I trimmed it too much, so obviously I couldn't make it longer. So I ended up just 3D printing my own. It works perfectly with the saber, and I was able to give you extras. And this I actually printed with my new printer, so that was pretty exciting. That was one of the first things I did. So I believe you have 8. You have at least 8 in there in case you lose any. But yeah, so let me take the battery out, and then finally the hilt itself. You'll also have an Allen wrench tool. I have it off to the side over here, but it'll be in the box with the saber. So this is your hilt. It is a lovely looking hilt, if I do say so myself. There's 2 different color options to choose from. The card kind of depicts it. The top one is more of a all silver finish with the black grip accents, but I chose to go with what's technically called the dark side variant because the colors have, it's just more contrast. It's more interesting. I think it looks better, and this is actually what I typically see when I've seen it on the internet, so I went with this one and thought you might like it. So there's kind of a quick look around of the entire saber. I like how they used a round pommel to kind of call back to the little knob on the Razor Crest, so that's really cool. And then the emitter looks a lot like Luke's saber, so that's another cool little reference there. And then it's got a control box like Luke's as well, but it's also very different. So it's really its own thing. So this saber, it's not just an empty hilt. It has electronics that I have installed inside the hilt. So I'm going to go over all that and show you how to take the battery in and out, and as well as show all of its different features and everything. So yeah, let's start with installing the button plungers and the battery. So your hilt unthreads from up here, so this whole I believe it's brass part unscrews and gets taken out, and then this pommel can also be taken off. You will not need to do this ever. You will not need to take this off. I prefer you not to. I would like you to only use the pommel when accessing the inside of your saber. So let's go ahead and take that off. And when you take it off, you just want to pull it straight off. And inside, you will see this. This never needs to come out, but I'll take it out to show you what it is so that you understand a little bit about it. This is a little speaker pod. It's got a 22 millimeter size speaker from the Saber Bay in there, and then you've got a I believe it's the Stock Custom Works speaker PCB in there. What this allows is the speaker to remain separate in the pommel while it uses these little pins to connect to the rest of it, and it allows it to be removable. So that's pretty cool. They did that to kind of save some space and allow you to access the micro USB and SD card without having to make a whole lot of space for you to get to it the more traditional way. So I printed this chassis off of a website called Shapeways. It's not my design, but I did use gold rub and buff and kind of gave it a similar theme to the rest of the hilt. So I thought that would be really cool. So this is your soundboard. It's kind of like the brains of the saber. Those pins that I was talking about, these two are your brass tactile buttons. So the top one's power and the bottom one will be auxiliary, and I'll show you what that means in a moment too. You've got your battery cradle here. I actually marked with Sharpie a little positive down there, if I can get it to focus correctly, and a little negative down there. So when you're inserting your battery, it has the markings on there, the plus sign up top, negative down below, so you want to align it in this orientation with the flat side down to the speaker and the button top up to the Neopixel connector up there. So that's how that goes in. These pins transfer all the power and data needed to power your blade. And one thing you want to be careful about with these is you don't want them to touch metal at all when the battery is inserted. What could happen there is some wires can basically be incorrectly joined, and it could short the soundboard, and it will damage the electronics, and they'll need to be replaced. So just be very careful of that when taking the chassis in and out and everything. So one thing, a little bit of story time here. These buttons, I had a hard time getting to not align, but get the right height for the control box, because there's a very, very small tolerance that you have in order to get the clamp card to go in snug but not be pushing on the battery or on the buttons, and then have them both be nice and clicky and operable. So that was a pain in the butt, probably because I should have taken maybe my time more on it, but I ended up, like I said, I 3D printed some plungers, so I got it to work very well. And then what I happened to notice later on was that, if I can get this to focus, these brass tactile buttons, I had two of them. They were different sizes, and it was such a small difference that that's how I kind of messed up the plungers. I was trying to shave them down and adjust them to fit. So I was kicking myself in the butt for that one. But I replaced it actually like 10-15 minutes ago. Little quick flicks, and I glued it in there, so those are all good to go, and I've been testing it. So glad that is finally fixed. So yeah, there's not really much to this chassis. Obviously it's very small, so there's not very many components on there. But yeah, so let me go on to inserting the battery, because there is a very particular way in which you do it. Usually there's a big spring on the negative side and you can just push down and kind of tilt in like that. But with this one, both of the contacts are the same type. They're like little leaf springs. And the way that you have to put it in is you kind of just have to push the top and the bottom in at the same time, right? Remember, button top up there, flat side towards the bottom. I actually turned it on. And then you just push it in. I'll show you like this. Kind of both sides going in at the same time. And then you'll actually want to take this little clamp card off. It just slides off of a little groove in there. So then what you'll want to do is with the tactile buttons aligned with the two little holes in this control box, you will want to carefully insert like this. And what I actually like to do when I'm putting the battery in is leave it sticking out just enough to where when it's tight when you insert it. Because when you go to twist the pommel on, sometimes that can twist the chassis and it'll misalign that. So I like to make it this nice and tight. That way once you put it in, it stays in place and it won't move as you assemble the rest of your saber. So it'll go all the way in when you can see the tips of the buttons, and it's about this far out from the saber there. So I'm going to try to show you this. You can see the heads of those tactile buttons in there. And if I were to twist it, you can see they get misaligned. So you want to get it right over the holes like that. It's a little bit difficult to show on camera, but I think you get the point there. And then next, you want to make sure that this little speaker pod is in with the little gold plate facing up towards the tip of the saber. And you want to put it on carefully, thread it on. And you want to keep it upright, because if you tilt the saber any other way, the speaker pod might fall out and it gets all diagonal and maybe jacked up. So you want to just keep your saber upright as you do this. And just thread it all the way on. And then if your saber's on, you'll hear when it connects, because the saber's obviously working and the speaker is connected. So, in your box, like I showed you earlier, you have a box of plungers. You want to take any two out, they're all the same. And you want to insert them. Actually, I should show you the kind of the shape of these. So they're kind of like little mushrooms with a thicker head on there. So you want to place this skinnier like bottom part down into the hole and leave the larger part up top. And this is how you're going to actuate the buttons when they're inside the hilt. So if I can get that to focus, you can see that those plungers are barely sticking up above the gold part of the control box. And that's exactly how you want it. And that's how much tolerance you have with these this button solution here. Once you get it to work, it is very nice, actually. There you go. You might have to fiddle with it a little bit, but the clamp card fits over those button plungers. And the top one is power, and all you have to do is press on the upper portion of it. You can press to turn it on, press to turn it off. Now, I'll show you all the functions while the saber is on. So you can turn it on. Your blade plug is lit there. You've got a set of stock Eco NPXLs in there. They're the same set that are on the chassis as well. And they have little LEDs on them that light up. These sabers feature smooth swing, flash on flash, and pressing the auxiliary while the saber's on is going to do a blaster block, which also makes the blade react. Very cool. And if you hold auxiliary and clash the saber, it'll do a saber lock. Again, that's press the button and clash directly after. If you hold the power button for 1 second and release, it'll do quotes for the selected font that you're on. This one happens to be like some force abilities being used. Let's see. What else is there? I believe hold power, tap aux is for color change. Oh, I'm sorry, that is a lightning block. So with the blade in, I'll show you what that looks like. So hold aux and tap power. There we go. So you'll hear that noise and you'll be able to change color. Some people like this color, so when you want to select one, you just press the upper button. Let me go with this one. You tap the power, and it locks it in. So yeah. You also have gesture controls. You can twist the saber on and twist it off. So I just demonstrated off. This is on, back off, and you also have swing on. So while the saber is off, you can swing to turn it on. And while the saber is off, to move up or down the fonts, you can hold it either parallel or upright to move up the font list. So you have, I want to say, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fonts that I put on here for you. So this first one is actually a Grogu font that somebody made. It's called The Child. And then, so that's actually a Yoda font. Let me show you what the Grogu font selection sounds like. So you can hold it upside down to actually go the other way in the list. So that's that. Makes me laugh every time. One thing I actually forgot is if you hold the power button for 1 second and release while the saber's off, it'll play music for that font, and they're all different. So I'll show you this one. It starts off a little quiet, but hopefully you can hear that. So that's from The Mandalorian. And then if you twist the saber right now, it'll actually select a different song if there are multiple for that font. So if you can just twist. So that's the Mandalorian theme. And then I can go back to the other one, back to the other one. And if you want to lock it in on that song, you just press power. And when I twist it, it will no longer be selecting. It'll lock in on that one. And when it's playing music, you can use the saber just like normal. So you can turn it on, swing it, do whatever. To stop the music, you can do the same thing you did to turn it on. Hold it for 1 second, release. So I'll go through the fonts with the blade in, actually. So let me switch this camera around a little bit and demo it with your blade. All right. So now that I've got the camera turned around, in the emitter section, there are 3 retention screws. There's 1, 2, and 3. These are what hold your blade in, and right now one of them is holding your blade plug in. So to loosen those, you're going to use your Allen wrench. This is a very tiny Allen wrench. So you'll go ahead and back these off one at a time. Three in total. Set that off to the side. So this is your blade plug when it's out of the saber. And this blade that I made for you uses Neopixel strips inside. There's 2 of them. They're kind of set back to back so it lights up the whole blade. And it's kind of a special blade because normally, I don't really have one right next to me, but if you can see this gold PCB, it's inside of the hilt a little bit. Usually it's right up at the edge and flush. So this blade is special because this Neopixel connector sits a little bit higher in like a cup. So there's space around it for this blade to fit in and sit down. And they do that because there's such little blade depth that that method actually allows it to have a better stability inside your saber. So a little bit of a funny story with that is that I made one blade for you, and the whole time I thought I was using the correct parts, but not all thin neck or thin walled saber tubes for the blades are the same thickness basically. So even though they're both thin walled, I think one's 1/16 of an inch and one is like an extra like probably 32nd of an inch thicker. And so it actually wasn't compatible with how this saber was meant to be installed. And so that's another thing that I kind of kicked myself for not knowing / ordering the wrong parts and all that. So, but this is the correct blade and it works very well. So you want to insert the blade all the way down, and then while applying some pressure, you want to tighten all 3 screws. You're going to tighten the first one till it's snug against the blade. Do the same thing with the next one. Tighten that one till it's snug. And then the third and last one. And I kind of do it like a car to where you don't crank down on it first time. I just get them all snug and then I go around one more time on all of them and tighten them a little bit more. Because if you tighten one screw all the way and then do the other ones, the blade could be just like a little bit crooked inside of the emitter. Let's see. Okay. So you can twist on. Flash on flash. And this is a shorter blade than normal because it's Grogu's saber, and also if I were to make a longer one it would be a little bit less stable and not very practical. So I think it came out to like 25 inches. Usually they're like 32 or 36. Let's do actually maybe the lightning block. Here's a regular saber lock. And it's responsive, so it moves when you tilt the saber. Let's go ahead and change colors. Oops. Gonna kind of go through all of them just to show you. You can pick any color you want. And go back to that gold. Feel the blade wobbling a little bit, so I'm going to tighten these down a little bit more. Let's switch to the next font. So this is Yoda. Thought it was kind of appropriate. Got a green blade with a little bit of a flicker. I need to make a test blade of this length. This is pretty good for swinging around in this small space that I have. So there's that one. I'll show you some quotes.
A prophecy that misread could have been.
I picked all ones for episode 3.
Goodbye, Chewbacca.
I need to watch that movie. All right, let's go to the next one. Obi-Wan, episode 3. So this saber is not designed to really be smacked around very hard. It's more of a shelf queen slash just kind of lightly swinging it around just to play around with it. So if you do swing around and start hitting stuff, the blade should be okay, but I can see the blade maybe loosening up and kind of coming out again, so it's not really designed for that. Definitely not designed for dueling, just lightly hitting and swinging for the effects.
Not this time, but this time you won't escape. Oh dear.
So that's really cool. Go to the next one.
The dark saber. It belongs to you.
Also thought it was very fitting. So this is the Darksaber blade style that I coded on there using FET 260's library. And this is Dark V3 by Kyberphonic.
This is the way. This is the way. This is the way.
Also thought that was
This
very
is the
fitting.
way.
Go to the next.
Are you a Jedi? I am.
So this is Luke from The Mandalorian. Another green blade. So if you feel like the buttons are, you're not being able to press it again, it just means you need to take the chassis out and realign it. Because I think I was just running into that issue right now. Let's see. Yeah, usually just means you need to take it out, put it back in again. So it's back to the Grogu font, stays on that yellow blade. So yeah. Very, very cool saber, very unique. Very fun to swing around because of how light it is. So yeah. I'm gonna take it back to the desk and finish off this demo for you. So now I'll show you how to take the blade back out, put the blade plug back in, and also take the chassis and battery out. So first you want to loosen all 3 set screws. A couple turns. This last one. Your blade should be able to just come right out. You put your blade plug back in, and then for this you only have to use 1 retention screw. It's just the blade plug, so saves you some time. There you are. So now we'll take the chassis out. So first, I like to use something thin like these pliers to be able to just push that clamp card and take it off. So there's that. You can set that off to the side. And then your plungers are going to be in those holes. So you just want to turn it upside down. They'll pop right out. You can set those carefully to the side. And you have to do that in order to pull the chassis out. Those plungers are sticking down in far enough to where it won't allow you to take the chassis out. So make sure you take those out. You can unthread the pommel here. Set that off to the side real quick. Slowly pull your chassis out. And then when taking the battery out, you may be inclined to push on it from the back, but there's wires back here, so I don't really recommend doing that. What I like to do is actually kind of cut my hand and bump the chassis right here, and it'll get the battery to pop out within a couple of taps. So I just go 1, 2, 3, and it's usually out far enough to where I can just come in with my finger and just pull it right out. Make sure you don't use anything metal to pull that out, because that can also damage the electronics. But yeah, so that's the battery out. You can put it back in really any orientation. Throw your pommel back on. And I do recommend taking the battery out if you plan to just keep it stored for a little while. If not, the battery will just drain. So you'll want to also throw this clamp card back on. So without the plungers on there, it's not the tightest fit. It'll stay on, but just be careful with that. You don't want to lose this, so just be mindful. But yeah, one last look at it. It's a very pretty saber. The finish is very nice. I like the gunmetal gray kind of finish, and this brass looks amazing. And I like the clean look to it as well. These grips are really nice too. I applied these for you. They're kind of like they just have adhesive on the back side and they stick on. But I actually kind of looked at the box to make sure I had them orientated in the correct way, and as you can see, they line up pretty well. I try to get that as best as I could. You got one shot when you do that. Anyways, yeah, so that's your saber. I'll go ahead and put everything back in the box for you, and I hope to be sending this off to you soon. At the time of this video, I'll be kind of working out how to get it to you. So it won't be too fast because you're overseas, but I will try to get it to you as soon as possible. So thank you for watching the demo video. Thank you, YouTube, and anybody who else who watched it. If you have any questions on any of my installs, really, feel free to reach out to me. I do accept commissions. As of right now, I guess a little short update is that I've got a few, sabers on my table, as you can see. Really cool projects coming up, so videos will be up for those soon. But I do take commissions. Might be a little bit of a wait right now, not too much because I'm kind of finishing stuff up and whatnot. So just feel free to reach out to me. I'm on Instagram at t.onosabers as well, so you can reach me there and message me and ask me any questions that you have. So yeah, so thank you for watching. That'll be it for this demo video. So yeah, and be sure to look out for the other videos coming up soon. Thanks.